Then, at the proper time, Jesus and the 12 apostles sat down together at the table.
I have looked forward to this hour with deep longing, anxious to eat this Passover meal with you before my suffering begins. For I tell you now that I won't eat it again until it comes to fulfillment in the kingdom of God.
Then he took a cup of wine, and when he had given thanks for it, he said,
"Take this and share it among yourselves, for I will not drink wine again until the kingdom of God has come."
Then he took a loaf of bread, and when he had thanked God for it, he broke it in pieces and gave it to the disciples, saying,
"This is my body, given for you. Do this in remembrance of me."
After supper, he took another cup of wine and said,
"This wine is the token of God's new covenant to save you, an agreement sealed with the blood I will pour out for you." But here at this table, sitting among us as a friend, is the man who will betray me. For I, the Son of Man, must die, since it is part of God's plan. But how terrible it will be for my betrayer.
Then the disciples began to ask each other which of them would ever do such a thing. And they began to argue among themselves as to who would be the greatest in the coming kingdom. Jesus told them,
"In this world, the kings and great men order their people around, and yet they are called friends of the people. But among you, those who are the greatest should take the lowest rank, and the leader should be like a servant. Normally the master sits at the table and is served by his servants. But not here, for I am your servant. You have remained true to me in my time of trial. And just as my Father has granted me a kingdom, I now grant you the right to eat and drink at my table in that kingdom. And you will sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel."
Two others, both criminals, were led out to be executed with him. Finally, they came to a place called the Skull. All three were crucified there, Jesus on the center cross, and the two criminals on either side.
"Father, forgive these people, because they don't know what they are doing."
And the soldiers gambled for his clothes by throwing dice. The crowd watched, and the leaders laughed and scoffed. "He saved others. Let him save himself if he really is God's chosen one, the Messiah." The soldiers mocked him too, by offering him a drink of sour wine. They called out to him, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." A signboard was nailed to the cross above him with these words, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, "So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself and us too while you're at it. Don't you fear God, even when you are dying? We deserve to die for our evil deeds, but this man hasn't done anything wrong. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom."
I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise.
By this time, it was noon, and darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. The light from the sun was gone. Then Jesus shouted,
"Father, I entrust my spirit into your hands."
and with those words, he breathed his last. And suddenly, the thick veil hanging in the temple was torn apart. When the captain of the Roman soldiers handling the executions saw what had happened, he praised God and said, "Surely this man was innocent." At noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice,
Eli! Eli! Lema sabachthani!
which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of the bystanders misunderstood and thought he was calling for the prophet Elijah. One of them ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, holding it up to him on a stick so he could drink. But the rest said,
"Leave him alone. Let's see whether Elijah will come and save him."
Then Jesus shouted out again,
Father, I entrust my spirit into your hand.
and he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain in the temple was torn in two. The earth shook. Rock split apart. And tombs opened. The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead after Jesus' resurrection. They left the cemetery, went into the holy city of Jerusalem, and appeared to many people. The Roman officer and the other soldiers at the crucifixion were terrified by the earthquake and all that had happened. They said, "Truly, this was the Son of God."